NPCs leveling up, how video games evolved dynamic characters and storytelling from 2000 to 2009. Video games aim to immerse players in interactive worlds full of dynamic challenges to overcome. Though gameplay mechanics are crucial for engagement, the depth of narrative and characters often separate forgettable titles from genre-defining masterpieces. This profound power of storytelling and relatable in-game populations advanced tremendously from 2000 to 2009 thanks to the non-playable characters, NPCs, populating many of the decade's landmark releases. Rather than existing merely as soulless quest dispensers or basic enemies to cut down, NPCs began to showcase complex motivations, backstories, and relationship systems that reacted organically to players' choices. Deus Ex allowed weapon-wielding NPC allies and adversaries like Anna Navarre to alter the course of its multipath conspiracy thriller. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic featured an unforgettable cast where morally complex companions like assassin droid HK-47 responded to players' light and dark decisions with their own evolving agendas. Assassin's Creed's chaotic crowds highlighted emerging realistic human behavior, while Dragon Age Origins wove player decisions into romances and bitter rivalries with a varied cast of unforgettable wizards and warriors. These breakthrough titles prove how integral NPCs became for driving narrative, increasing emotional investment, and allowing developers to build vibrant worlds that felt alive even when the player wasn't present. As video games left their simpler arcade origins behind and developers focused more on crafting cinematic interactive stories, the 2000s bore some of gaming's most ambitious attempts to make audiences care about the characters they crossed paths with. This pivotal decade kicked off an NPC evolution that continued elevating gaming well into the 2010s and beyond. 2000 to 2002, revolutionizing NPC interaction and story depth. Some of the most groundbreaking illustrations of evolved NPC interactivity and narrative influence came from titles in the early 2000s. Deus Ex 2000 stood at the forefront, integrating non-playable allies and enemies like nano-augmented agent Anna Navarre deeply into its conspiracy-laden gameplay and story outcomes. Navarre and other characters react organically to players' dialogue choices, stealth approaches, and more while advancing the game's globe-trotting mystery. Likewise, The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind 2002 employs a rudimentary decision tree system to allow NPC reactions to traced factors like time of day or weather conditions. Combined with NPCs following daily routines and members of political factions having unique dialogue shaped by their culture and background, this innovation provides unprecedented life to Morrowind's Wood Elves, Imperial Legionnaires, and other populations. Players feel like a foreign visitor getting to know a living, breathing land instead of loosely interacting with rigid characters. Titles like Baldur's Gate 2, 2000, similarly honed emotionally complex NPC writing, while games from Grand Theft Auto 3, 2001, to Final Fantasy X, 2001, promoted the sheer diversity of characters possible. Whether plumbing the psychological depths of an elven mage companion or navigating street gangs and crime bosses in a dynamic urban landscape, the early 2000s catalyzed the medium's ambition regarding the narrative weight NPCs could carry. This golden era inspired game designers to expect more from these interactive figures than ever before. 2003 to 2005, advancing NPC relationships and story impact. Building on earlier revolutionary strides in NPC interactivity and depth, landmark video games released from 2003 to 2005 revealed sophisticated new relationship systems and storytelling methods impacting players through their playable character interactions. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic 2003 allowed users to befriend, romance, betray, or fall from grace with an ensemble supporting cast like scoundrel pilot Carthonacy. The morality of choices shaped these complex bonds organically thanks to Obsidian Entertainment's advanced writing and role-playing mechanics. Similarly, Fable 2004 granted players agency to not only save the world as a brave hero but also to become intimate with and eventually marry NPC townspeople along the journey. Meanwhile, a title like Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, 2003, honed its entire premise around the edgy dynamic between its lead hero and the deceitful Princess Farah. This genre-defining cinematic platformer proved how two well-crafted NPCs playing off each other could drive adventure and intrigue. A couple years later, Neopets, The Darkest Fairy, 2005, built an entire storyline around befriending distinct races of whimsical creatures like terry birds. As these efforts widened the spectrum of NPC bonds and impacts further, the stage was set for the climactic second half of the decade when games doubled down on ambitious interactive population designs, propelling players to new emotional heights. 2006 to 2009, innovating interactive systems and emotional depth. The late 2000s elevated the art of impactful NPC interactivity to unprecedented peaks as studios like BioWare and Ubisoft drove intricate new systems, enabling emotionally complex bonds with dynamic story outcomes. Mass Effect, 2007, introduced a diverse crew of non-playable squadmates like Turian Garrus Vakarian and Quarian mechanic Tully Zora to accompany players on epic intergalactic adventures. Their shifting loyalties, histories, romances, and conflicts with Shepard were shaped dynamically by dialogue selections and choices spanning the sci-fi trilogy. Similar relationship depth manifested in Dragon Age Origins, 2009, as morally grey wizard Morrigan, righteous paladin Alistair, and other wizard or warrior teammates influenced the high fantasy saga based on befriending, betraying, or wooing them. Meanwhile, Assassin's Creed, 2007, astonished with expansive urban landscapes populated by hundreds of NPCs from all walks of medieval life adhering to alarmingly realistic crowd mechanics and daily routines. Whether pickpocketing monks or blending into a knot of courtesans, this interactive world set a new immersion benchmark. Titles like BioShock, 2007, with its gone mad populations, or Half-Life 2, 2006, with ingeniously written allies and enemies like Alex Vance and Dr. Breen, also stand out during gaming's climactic generational moment. As technology caught up with ambition, the 2000s ended having redefined what players could expect from NPC depth and integration forever after. Conclusion? As clearly evidenced across numerous gaming milestones, the 2000s bore tremendous innovation in non-playable character writing, reactivity, and relationship systems for heightened immersion. Deus Ex and Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic set new bars early on, while later groundbreakers like Mass Effect and Assassin's Creed showcased astonishing execution of interactive population technology and emotionally resonant squadmate plots. As a result, by the end of the decade, players had come to expect not just functional NPCs as narrative springboards but intricate personalities, motives, backstories, and organically dynamic bonds deftly tailored around their hero's journey. Leading franchises today, from The Witcher to God of War, owe their genre-pushing ally-slash-enemy relationship depths to the bold strides first taken in these pioneering 2000s titles. Without memorable figures like Morrowind's religious zealots or Mass Effect's Krogan teammate Rex, many modern gaming masterpieces would surely lose some flavor. Whenever players fall in love with or come to resent the fictional beings they cross paths with during exhilarating quests, they have the ambition of 2000s developers to thank for reaching such interactive writing heights, pairing gameplay excitement with genuine emotional stakes. If the 2000s sparked the NPC evolution, modern games continue fanning the flames.